Hello and welcome back to another video on the channel. This is EDH Deck Tricks. Today we're looking at a nice Orzhov deck named Destiny's Trial. Before we get into that though, make sure to like the video and subscribe if you do enjoy my content. A quick note before we get into the video. Unfortunately, I have a scheduling conflict on Wednesday and I will not be able to make a video for the Commander Talks podcast series. Unfortunately, that video will be pushed back to Thursday. It will still come out this week, but it's going to be Thursday rather than on Wednesday, unfortunately. Sorry about that. In addition, I will not be starting the new series I've talked about a little bit because I don't have time right now. I'll be going on spring break soon though, and I might have time to start it then. So yeah, anyways, like the video, subscribe, onto the video. Our commander is Triad of Fates, 2 white black for a 3/3 legendary creature human wizard. Pay 1 and tap it, put a fate counter on another target creature. Pay a white and tap it, exile a creature I control with fate counter on it, return to battlefield under its owner's control. Black and tap it, exile a creature that has a fate counter on it, draw 2 cards. So this deck can be built a couple of ways. However, we're building this deck as a sort of control blink deck. Now, a lot of blink decks are control decks, and that's kind of just the nature of how they fall out. This one is going to go along with them, but Triad of Fates has been often considered a very underwhelming commander. Today, I'm going to show you that it is ridiculously powerful under the right circumstances. So, let's look at a couple of the locks that we have. We have Angel of Grace, 3 white white for a 5/4 flash flying. ETB, until end of turn, damage that would reduce your life total to less than 1, reduces it to 1 instead. With Triad of Fates on the battlefield and a way to untap Triad of Fates, you can make sure that this happens every turn so you can never die to combat damage. However, the best lock that this deck does have is in fact Cataclysmic Gearhulk, which is 3 white white for a 4/5 artifact creature, Vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, each player chooses an artifact, a creature, an enchantment, and a planeswalker from among the non-land permanents he or she controls, then sacrifices the rest. What we do with this card is, we put a fate counter on it, we blink it for Triad of Fate's second ability, it comes back down, we wipe the board, except for we choose Cataclysmic Gearhulk as our artifact, and Triad of Fates as our creature. That means that every other turn we can wipe the board of all artifacts, creatures, enchantments, and planeswalkers, and keep our key pieces and so we have a lock permanently on the game, and we basically can't lose if we're wiping the board every other turn, or even every turn if we get some certain cards in the deck. Next, we're playing with Mycosynth Lattice. All permanents are artifacts in addition to their other types. All cards that aren't in play, spells, and permanents are colorless, and players may spend mana as or mana of any color. We use that with Karn the Great Creator, which says activated abilities of artifacts your opponent's control can't be activated, which literally means that your opponents can never use their lands. They just can't play the game. That's the best synergy with Mycosynth Lattice. The other one we have is Lead on Mechanical Engineer, which is 2 white for 3/3 Vigilance, legendary artifact creature, Artificer. At the beginning of your end step, untap each other artifact creature you control, and you can pay 3 and a white and tap to create a 5/5 vehicle artifact token. Named Zeppelin with Flying and Crew 3. This one is really cool with Mycosynth Lattice and Lead Up both on the battlefield. What that means is that we can untap our commander Triad of Fates every single end step, so we can get a bunch more value out of blinking and putting fate counters on it. Next up, we got a lot of card draw on the deck, and most of it is ETB based because, well, why wouldn't it be? We're in a blink deck. Disciple of Bull is 3 and a black for a 2/1. ETB, sacrifice another creature, gain X life, draw X card where X is that creature's power. Got Eternal Bond 2, 3 black black for a 5/6 menace. Enters the battlefield, sacrifice any number of other permanents, draw that many cards. When it dies or is put into exile from the battlefield, you may put it into its owner's library, third from the top. Callous Blood Mage, 2 black for 2/1, enters the battlefield, you can create a 1/1 black and green pest token. You can draw a card, you can lose 1 life, or you can exile target player's graveyard. We got Custodial Lich, 3 black black for when it ETBs, become the Monarch. Whenever you become the Monarch, target player sacrifices a creature, it's a 4/2. We got even more cards where we got Gonti, Lord of Luxury, 2 black black for a 2/3 Death Touch. When you enter the battlefield, you look at the top 4 cards of target player's library, exile one of them, and you can cast that as long as that card is in exile, and you can spend mana as over any color to cast it. We got Demonic Tutor, we got Solemn Simulacrum, we got Spirited Companion, we got Lorn of the Third Path, new card from the Brothers War, 2 and a white for 2/1 Vigilance. Tap it, you and target opponent each draw a card, but when it enters the battlefield, you can destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment. So we got a lot of card draw. That most of it is blinkable, and unfortunately, Solemn is not. We can ramp with Solemn Simulacrum, even though we can't draw cards because it's a dies trigger. However, almost all of our removal or our card draw is blinkable, and this is huge for, well, a blink deck. Next, we got some synergies with fate counters. The Ozolith is an legendary artifact. Whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it has counters on it, put those counters on the Ozolith. Beginning of combat on your turn, if the Ozolith has counters on it, you may move all counters from the Ozolith onto target creature. So what this means is that every turn, once per turn, we can blink a creature. It leaves the battlefield. The fate counters on it go off of it onto the Ozolith, and then at the beginning of combat, we can put those counters on another creature so that we can keep reusing our fate counters. Resourceful Defense is a fairly similar thing, but it's an enchantment. It's 2 and a white. Whenever a permanent you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on target permanent you control. It's even better than the Ozolith because every time you blink a creature, put the Phantom count on something else. You can do it again. You can do it again. So you don't even have to spend any more mana on fate counters in that first use if you have this in the battlefield. It's really, really great. And it also has the added benefit of 4 and a white. Any number of counters from target permanent you control to another target permanent you control. So you can be moving the fate counters around, bouncing and blinking everything that you want. It's really, really strong. Next up, we got some Enter the Battlefield synergies. We got Elishnorn to double R ETBs, and Panharmonicon to do the same. Elishnorn also has that added benefit of being on a 4/7 Vigilance body and preventing our opponents from having ETBs a la Torpor Orb. We've got Corpse Knight as a nice little way to boost damage here. It's white-black for a 2/2. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent will lose 1 life. It isn't our primary win con, but it's really useful to just reduce those life totals is lower and lower on our opponents because we're going to be doing a lot of blinking in this deck. Next up, we got board wipes. We got Farewell, which can exile artifacts, creatures, enchantments, and graveyards. Vanquish the Horde, which is 2 mana, destroy all creatures. Wrath of God, destroy all creatures can't be regenerated. Toxic Deluge. We've got the Eternal Wanderer, which is really amazing in this deck because it's both a board wipe with its -4. It can create tokens if we want them for some reason, and its +1 is a blink effect that returns on end step for anything. It can be a sort of soft removal spell for like temporary times, but it can also blink our stuff for even more value. Next up, we got some untapped synergies with our commander because we need that. We got Thousand Year Elixir, one of the best because it's 3 mana. You may play the activated abilities for creatures you control as those creatures with haste. There's not much haste enablers in white and black, so this is a really key card in our deck. You can pay 1 and tap it to untap target creature. Patriarch's Seal, 3 mana. It's also a mana dork. You can tap it for 1 mana of any color, but you can also pay 1 and tap it to untap target legendary creature control. Guess what our commander is? A legendary creature. We have Mage Right Stone, 2 mana for an artifact with 1 and tap it, untap target creature that has an activated ability with tapping its cost. So these 3 artifacts make the backbone of our ability to untap our commander and generate huge value with it. A bunch of blink effects that we have. We've got Charming Prince, which can be blinked itself in order to just create huge value. If we're blinking with our commander to blink other cards, it's going to spiral out of control really fast. Your Interlude can blink any number of target creatures you control until your end step. Ephemerate blinks a creature you control. It gets another cast on your next upkeep. Teleportation Circle and Conjurer's Closet can bounce a creature you control or an artifact for Teleportation Circle on all of your end steps, which is really nice value. It's very similar to our commander in that way. These make the backbone of our deck in addition to our commander. We've got Ramp, and we have a lot of it. We need to ramp hard. We got Felwar Stone, Orzhov Signet, Arcane Signet, Soul Ring, Talisman of Hierarchy for the artifact-based ramp. We've got Tithe. We can search our library for a Plains card. If you control fewer lands than target opponent, you can search your library for an additional Plains card. Reveal those cards and put them into your hand. And then Knight of White Orchid, ETB. If an opponent controls more lands than you, put a Plains into play from your deck. And that can be blinked as well to get even more value if another of our opponents is ramping really hard. We got some nice hate bears and tax effects. Smothering Tithe is also kind of like Ramp. It creates treasure. Arcfiend to the Dross, 2 black. It's from the new All the Way 1 set. 6/6 flying. ETB with 4 oil counters on it. Upkeep, remove an oil counter from it. If it has no oil counters, you lose the game. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, its controller loses 2 life. This card is really useful for us because the main threat is that it will lose all its counters before you win the game, but you can keep blinking it and resetting all the counters every time you blink it. Deafening Silence is amazing. Each player can't cast more than 1 non-creature spell per turn. The majority of our spells are creature spells, and even if they aren't, we have things to do besides casting spells thanks to our commander. Mural Shield of Argive makes a lot of tokens when it attacks, and during your turn, your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. Next up, we got cards to blink, and there are a lot of them. Plague Crafter is a removal spell. Cavalier of Knights is a removal spell. Duplicant's a removal spell. Skycleave Apparition is a removal spell. Grief pulls cards from your opponent's hand. Cavalier of Dawn, removal spell. Ravenous Chupacabra, you guessed it, removal spell. Solitude, removal spell. The only one on the list that isn't is a Crow and Horse. It's 4 mana for a 0/4 defender. Enters the battlefield and an opponent gains control of it. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent puts a 1/1 white soldier creature into play. I really like this card because we can use the third ability of our commander to exile the tokens that we get to draw 2 cards. So if we need to draw cards for some reason, that's got our back, and we can blink it to change what player has control of it, so you could get multiple tokens per turn rotation. It's really nice that way. The rest of this is all removal spells, except for Grey Merchant as well, which is a win con. If we blink it enough times, we'll just drain our opponents out to death. But yeah, most of this is removal because we are a control deck looking to control the board and just prevent our opponents from doing basically anything. Next up, Protection. We got Teferi's Protection. We all know what that does. One of the best spells in our game. Makes our opponents not exist for a turn and makes it so we can't lose the game. Kai's goes for him. Put this on our commander. Enchant creature or planeswalker you control. Whenever enchanted permanent dies or is put into exile, return that card to the battlefield under your control. A really interesting one that is probably not seen that much is Breathkeeper Seraph. 4 white for flying and soul bond, which means you can pair it with a creature when it enters the battlefield. Whenever any creature, including it, enters the battlefield. So that means you could pair it with something, and then that creature dies. You play a new creature, you bond it with that creature as well. And now the great thing about this card is, as long as it's paired with another creature, both of those creatures have, when this creature dies, return to the battlefield at the beginning of your next upkeep. So your commander can never die as long as you have Breathkeeper Seraph around. That's really great. We have some single target removal. I know this deck has a lot of removal already, but who doesn't need a little more single target removal? Swords of Plowshares, Path to Exile, great, super efficient 1 mana removal spells. Anguish Unmacing, exile target non-land permanent you lose 3 life. The 3 life just doesn't matter, and you get to exile anything. It's so good at instant speed. Council's Judgment is just one of my favorite pet cards of all time, really. 1 white for a sorcery will of the council. Starting with you, each player votes for a non-land permanent you don't control. Exile each permanent with the most votes or tied for the most votes. What happens most of the time is that you remove 3 of your opponent's biggest threats, and that's just so strong. It's such a great card advantage engine, because most of the time the problem with single target removal is that it's a 1-for-1, and in a multiplayer format that's not very good. Council's Judgment, straight up, can almost every time I've ever cast that card, it removes the 3 best permanents that I don't control from the game. Because it's an exile effect as well. It's so strong. Don't sleep on that card. A lot of people do. Next up, we got tutors. We got Vampiric Tutor, Enlightened Tutor, just to find whatever piece we need at the time. It'll probably be Cataclysmic Gearhulk, just to lock the table out of the game effectively. Our mana base, here it is. The one card I want to point out from that is Nesting Ground, which was tap for a colorless or 1 and tap it. You can move a counter from a permanent you control to another target permanent you control, which is really strong with fake counters if we want to shift up what card we're going to be blinking next. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it useful on building an Orzhov Blink deck from Triad of Fate, which is often considered a very weak commander. See you in the next one. Make sure to like and subscribe to the video.